Yo, James, what's happening with the Ukraine, man? There's a lot of fight going on. What's happening with this Putin thing? Like trying to kill innocent people, trying to take over the country.
Well, what Vladimir Putin believes is that Ukraine isn't a sovereign state. He believes it should be part of the old USSR, if you want to call it for a better word, or even before that, the Russian Federation. And because he believes that, he's never accepted Ukraine as a democratic country, as a sovereign nation. I mean, we know for the last 8 weeks he was piling on these tanks and everything surrounding Ukraine, telling people for decades, telling people for weeks that he had no intentions of invading Ukraine, and everybody knows now that that was just not true. I mean, now we know that the invasion's been on for the last 5 or 6 days, and it'll probably go on for longer than that. And we know that women, innocent women, children, and men are dying because of one man. And whatever he may believe or have in his mind, he has the power to make it happen. Some people dream about having money. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it. He has made what he has in his own mind become a reality. And that has cost blood, has cost lives, and it has made, some ways, the world a much more unpleasant place.
So what's he going to achieve by invading Ukraine?
Well, that's what everybody's trying to work out. Nobody can understand what's going on in Putin's mind, because even if he was, and this is a big was, to take over Ukraine, he would never be able to hold Ukraine. He'd never be able to hold that country. He'd never be able to occupy that country because it's so large. And of course there'd be guerrilla warfare and everything else happening as well.
Already happening there, isn't it?
It is. So we don't know. I mean, well, at the moment, what's happening with the Ukrainian army is they're attacking the supply chains that supply the Russians. But my fear, in some ways, is that they've sent young Russians in on the pretense that
Not been trained.
They've not been trained.
So British gone.
Yeah, and like they've been, but what the Russian leaders have been telling them is that this is a training exercise. When you walk into Ukraine, they're going to welcome you with open arms. But what the Russians are finding is that the Russian leaders have been lying, and that they're not welcomed with open arms. They're completely hostile, and they will defend their country, because they are an invading force. And at the end of the day, this all comes down to one man, a man who, in his mind, believes that this is not a sovereign country. And
So why is he deciding after that long time, like to invade? Why couldn't he do something about it from this day one? That when he whatever he's feeling now, why didn't he do it back in the days? Why now?
because that's what people don't understand. People don't understand what his mind is. We don't know what his end game is. He's not going to be able to hold on to Ukraine because it's too big a country. He's not going to be able to get the things he wants to get. So we don't know. Nobody knows what they want. All we know is that this is an illegal war, he's going for an illegal occupation. We want him to stop killing people, especially women and children, and their fathers. We want him to get out of Ukraine, and we want him to behave himself.
So what's going to happen now then?
Well, the Western society is the best that we can. All we can do is give sanctions, and all we can do is to put as much weapons as possible into the arms of Ukraine so that they can defend themselves. I mean, these are people, incredibly brave people. You have to imagine yourself in your own country, like me imagining myself here, and suddenly somebody knocking on my door and say, "Here's a gun, James. Are you prepared to use it?" And I'm suddenly thinking, "Oh my God, my life is on the line." These people know that their lives are on the line, but they are doing it
To save for the
for
country.
their country, and they really believe in their country. And I think that is a very good thing. And the sanctions we're taking, we've made sanctions against the Russian central bank. We've chucked a lot of Russian banks out of SWIFT. It stands for the Society of Worldwide Interbank
Transfer.
financial telecommunications. It's where you can transfer money across the world. That they're now, some of those banks are out of, apart from the fact that because some Western countries have relied too much on Russian gas and oil, it means that we haven't, those people can still trade on SWIFT. And the problem with doing that is that the Russians can get money, will be making their money from the fuel, which I would like to see them completely out of SWIFT. But the problem, we've got to think about the Russian people as well, because sanctions are going to hurt them, but sanctions go two ways. They hurt the people who you're sanctioning, but they will hurt us as well. But it's whether you want to pay the price now or whether you want to pay the price later on. And the price later on is much more expensive and much more worse
than now. So it's best to settle it now.
It's best to settle it now. But for anybody to know what goes in the mind of Putin, I don't know. All I know is that they're going to isolate him. He's a pariah, and I hope he ends up a very, very lonely old man who looks back and thinks he'd made history when actually he didn't. All he did was butcher people for his own beliefs.
I heard. I saw YouTube yesterday when the Syria had war, and when he got involved with Assad. Is that true? He gassed those people, Russians.
Well, I mean, I've not actually gone into that yet, so I'm not exactly sure what he did in Syria. But I mean, what we do know is that whenever, what we know is that when you invade countries, it doesn't work. It didn't work in Afghanistan. It didn't work.
Not even for Russia, it didn't work.
No, it didn't work for Russia when they did it. It didn't work in. All we do when you invade somebody, you leave a mess.
Always.
Yeah, always. So even if Russia win or whatever they do in Ukraine, they'll have damaged the infrastructure of that, and Putin will have left a legacy in the minds of people that will last long after he's dead. And the final thing that I would say to Putin is that at the end of the day, what you have done is no different from Adolf Hitler. And at the end of the day, you got involved in the war to stop, in the 1940s, during the Second World War, you got involved in a war that stopped Adolf Hitler from taking over. And yet you have acted in exactly the same way he is, and you are no different from him. And so at the end of the day, all we can do is pray for the Ukraine.
So what am I hearing when Putin is saying, when he's bombing those areas in the Ukraine? Why is he saying something about Nazis? That's why.
Oh, because he has to demonize. He has to make reasons for why he's
to go and splash at them.
Yeah, to why he's going into invade a country. He has to blame the people. You know what he's saying is that because in Damascus and the others, and there's these people who are the separatists who've been fighting, for their independence, but they've been Russian backed, of course. And what Putin is saying is he's going in there to defend these separatists, and he's using that as a platform to say, right, it's the Ukrainian government's fault for why we're going in there. It's propaganda, it's lies, it's deceitful and it's dishonest. But most importantly, and also Putin sort of raising this thing about nuclear weapons. I mean, at the end of the day,
do you feel like Putin got do you think he trusted the West so much and now he doesn't trust him? I think he doesn't trust the West anymore.
Putin, there's nothing to do with whether Putin has never trusted anything. I think the problem with
he did trusted them. There's something happened. The West did something, and he broke the trust. That's why he's aggro with them about that, about whatever that was.
Putin has never had anything to do with the West. He he's his own person, and sadly, he lives in his own world. There's nothing to do with the West. There's nothing.
Yeah, but he does go to interviews, like he will go to NBC, like America. They will take him.
Well, he doesn't. He does. I mean,
he does. I showed YouTube yesterday.
Yeah, but the thing is, he always spends most of his time in Europe. So now that we banned him from our aerospace, European aerospace. I mean, obviously the Russians have banned us from their aid, but why would? And I wouldn't want to go to Russia, not because.
And they're banning football and
the Russian
sport and everything.
Let's be honest. The Russian people the 2,000 Russian people have already been arrested by standing up to Putin and saying.
Oh, they don't like him, yeah.
That they don't. Not that they don't like him. Just as they don't. Whether they like him or not doesn't matter. What they're saying is they don't want more in our name. But what Putin does not allow anybody to stand up against him. If anybody says anything wrong about Putin, he will, they will come down heavy on them. You saw pictures of women being dragged by the Russian police, dragged away and put. We don't know where those people have gone to and what they're doing to them. We've got no idea what happened. That the Russian opposition leader who exposed Putin for having this palatial splendor of this massive mansion where he's got a swimming pool, he's got tennis courts and everything like that, and that was shown on YouTube. And what then happened was that Putin, when he went back to Russia, to his own country, he was arrested and charged, and now he's in prison. So any opposition person who stands up against Putin ends up in prison or ends up being. We've just had the anniversary of one of the opposition leaders who was shot dead 7 years ago, and they still commemorate him every year. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but all we can really.
Do you think that the ways that things are going on? I wonder how the Muslim countries thinking about all this war. They're not saying any comments like Iran.
Well, I think because they've had their own problems with the way that they've been treated. But
yeah.
At the end of the day, all I can finish off by saying is that all I can do is pray that the Ukrainian people can be as safe as they can be. That the countries who are taking in refugees. And Poland have been very, very good in the way that they've treated.
So how come Hungary is not really on them? I mean, Hungary they're not supplying or helping Ukraine. I noticed that.
Yeah, but the thing is, some of these countries do things in other ways. But all we can do is to hope and pray that the Ukrainians can keep as safe as they can. That getting away from Putin and the people who are around him, who sort of kowtow to him, to people outside of that circle who will get somehow or another through to him that the way he's behaved is absolutely disgraceful, and there's a price to pay for being exactly like playing. It's a price to pay for playing God, and the real God, just as he struck down Herod with the disease when he blasphemed God. There's a price to pay for being a false god. As we know, when Moses came down from the mountain, and when he came down from the mountains, he saw people worshipping a golden calf. He smashed the two plates of commandments on the floor, on the ground. He got new ones eventually, but he smashed the first two and he smashed the calf. What Putin has to remember is that God is watching him.